we need to ascribe reasons why the economy is where it is, and that the blame should not be on government or solely on government.
Thank you very much, Roland, and let me also greet my co-panelists and also my brother, Professor Lord Mensah, for a beautiful work done this morning. The truth of the matter is that the statement by the finance minister must be considered as a propaganda and political statement.
Oh, how is it? Is this a true?
No, it's not a true statement. It's a political statement. And if you understand politics, you will know the relevance of it in 2028. This is a minister that is about going out. The minister must make a statement which will stand the test of time, that in 2028, when they go back to Ghana and the Ghanaian people to seek for their mandate, he will make reference to this statement.
You mean the publication and all that? It's all in sync?
Yeah, it's in sync.
How?
So that in 2028, he will just go back to the people of this country and tell them that, look, when we were living power, we left a resilient economy. You understand? And that will be the defining moment. So you have to treat it as a political statement, because everything to do with this economy does not support what the minister said. You understand? If you say an economy is resilient, what it means is that the economy has the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from any difficulties or toughness. Where we are now, can you say for sure that if we were to experience, let's forget about Russia-Ukraine business and say another disaster, would this economy in its current state be able to withstand any shocks? What are we doing? What have we done that will put us in that position to withstand any shocks? We have just been told by the trade advocacy that Ghana as a country imports $1 billion worth of tin tomatoes annually. You understand? We are talking about $1.2 billion worth of vehicles and its parts. Sugar is within the range of $300 million. You are talking about iron and steel, about $1.2 billion. What have we done in these regards to reduce the imports of some of these things? You know, for an economy to be resilient, your productive sectors must be operating at full length. We have done nothing of that sort. And even if you go back to the Ministry of Finance's own website, having made this statement, they go ahead to say that to be able to sustain these, we must focus on planting for food and jobs. We must do one district, one factory. We must push more money into the productive sector. They know that until we do this, all that he said is a political statement, and there is nothing to back whatever he has said.
Now, if we have to just oppose that with what the Trade Advocacy Network did publish, you'll find that when it comes to planting for food and jobs and then the value chain, for example, $1 billion is spent on importation of tin tomatoes.
Yes, which is crazy. How can we as a country...
$800 million on rice.
On rice. We have the Tongu, North Tongu, South Tongu areas, and then the Western North areas being suitable for rice production. And as a government for close to 8 years, we have not done anything of this nature to reduce this importation. And you are telling me the economy...
There was plenty for food and jobs.
Yeah, that was a joke.
Joke?
A minister enters into the fray of selling plantain at the Ministry of Agriculture, and he thought it was okay. Your own Minister of Agriculture decides to
he wanted us to see that they were doing plenty for food and jobs.
That was for me, if the president was mindful, he should have sacked the minister the very moment he said that he pushed food to the Minister of Finance, agreed to be selling to the general public. It's a failure. You know? Yeah, failure, total failure. And it showed in the whole election that we went to. They have been doing this, and the Ghanaian is telling you that there is a difference between fiction and reality. The reality of the Ghanaian is that we don't have jobs. Our cedi to the dollar is not doing well. Everything in the economy, just this morning, they have increased fuel. Are you aware of that?
I have the latest.
We are going through doom. So La Paz areas, they have been in without power for the past 3 days.
La Paz?
La Paz areas, call them. So how can you tell me that your economy is growing when your energy, when you talk about crude and other, that is the engine of your economy. We have had serious issues with our energy requirements. So how can you come and tell me that the economy has experienced any growth? That's what I said. It's a political statement, and it must be viewed as that. This is the very minister, just July, only 5 months ago, was pleading with Ghanaians to have patience because the economy was in tatters. What magic did he do between July to December that we are talking to come and tell us that everything is all right? Yeah, you got to take it serious.
You mean the minister doesn't take us serious?
And that is why
he's the one watching the numbers, talking to the bilateral, multilateral.
Seriousness that has led them to this heaviest defeat. If he's going to behave like this in opposition, then I'm telling you, they will not have any position, any future as a party. I don't think they will even have any future. Let me tell you, my only advice to this administration is that they must begin to deal with some of these propaganda.
Meaning what?
Meaning that they must not allow this government to set the agenda for them before they leave office. Secondly, they must take this great transformational book very, very serious, Mr. President. Because you see, when you refer to the trade advocacy statistics data, all the solutions in this book was to address the problem that they have raised. The establishment of 10 strategic anchor industries to deal with automobile. See the amount of money we spend on automobile, vehicles and cars, 1.2 billion. Go into it, we're talking about electronics. How much do we spend there? About $600 million. Go into it, we're talking about new agricultural revolution that would have dealt with tomatoes and other components. You understand? Sugar and so on and so forth. These are the issues we must deal with. You cannot run an economy with propaganda. When you run an economy with propaganda, the electors will expose you with a difference of almost 2 million. And that is what has happened. And I believe, going forward, the Russians and the Ukrainians must begin to send their lawyers into this country to shut up the mouth of these people. We have abused. Look,
Solomon, you can't say that.
Roland, we have abused the name. Look, I find it difficult why Ghana must abuse the name of Russia and Ukraine for their own war. They are fighting. Two friendly nations are doing their small gimmicks. Then you rely on it heavily as a reason why we are suffering, and you think it's fair? You think it's fair? We have not been fair to the people of Russia and Ukraine. And I wonder what the ambassadors and embassies are doing in this country. They must take this country to the international court of whatever, and then begin to access whether or not their war had anything to do with us. Are we not a net exporter of crude and crude in this country? So if they are fighting, and you are a net exporter of crude, and by the actions and inactions, prices of crude oil skyrocketed. Did we not benefit from it? So why must that be your storyline every day? It must cease after 7th of January so that this country will have its peace of mind. So treat it as a political peace. There is nothing in there. This Minister of Finance had no business being there. He has failed us together with Ken Oforiatta, and I wonder why he even took up this position, because the whole place has been dismissed.
So it's the president who is the appointing authority. And you wanted to rebut to, because I wanted to ask you, Kwesi Kwarteng, because it's very instrumental.
Just a quick one.
Yes, so as you rebut to it, we'll just spend some 3 minutes because the time is over. But it's important to ask the question. Can we make the conclusion that the response of the voters to the NDC and John Dramani Mahama as against Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the MPP government really just shows that they were not feeling the management of the economy in their pocket, and that the economy really was in the doldrums. And as a result of that could be a good justification.
Thank you.
And so not support the finance minister's statement.
I'm going to respond to that, but permit me to just read this to you briefly. Then I think you just gave me 3 minutes. This is a story on Ghana Web. I'm going to give you just 3 stories. But first one, this one is my joy online. This is Mr. Setepe. There are positive signals that Ghana's economy is bouncing back to pre-COVID era. Pre-COVID-19 era, Setepe, 12 December 2024. This is Mr. Setepe making that admission. This is not the finance minister.
So there are positive indicators.
Solo, please allow him. When you were talking.
When finance minister made it, he's an MPP, he is aligned to the MPP. You poured out all your political drama. But this is coming from Setepe. I hope you also respond to him.
Of course.
Now, let me move on to Mr. President Mahama. There is a Ghana web story. Mahama makes U-turn, admits COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine war was responsible for economic crisis. And just a quick reading. Former President John Mahama has admitted that the global events such as the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine have contributed to the current economic crisis in the country. Of course, you can read more. Now let's go to the final one, where during his lecture at the African Business Conference, which was organized by Harvard Business School. This is Mr. John Mahama admitting the negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and, of course, the Russia-Ukraine on global economies and African economies, including the Ghanaian economy. When you travel outside the country, you can make that admission that indeed it had a devastating impact on worldwide economies, African economies, and the Ghanaian economy. But as soon as you land in Ghana, all of a sudden, hey, I mean, that argument or that point that he made outside there, that's not suffice again. Is that what we are saying? Mr. Mahama made such bold statements, such admissions on the international platform, of course, which has been corroborated by Mr. Tepe, that as at now, the economy is recovering. You do not want to take into account all these statements, but when it's coming from the finance minister, hell should break loose. It is the MPP that has committed the same.
You understand that?
Respectfully. So, let me tell you something. I'm just going to give you the first 4 years of our administration. I'm just going to give you some few figures. We had the longest period of single-digit inflation, an average GDP of growth of rate of 7%, and of course, strong external balance. Now, I'm going to justify you with, their side when Doctor was making some assessments. Of course, when the finance minister was making some comments, he highlighted the key achievements and pointing out to Ghana's gross international reserves, which currently stand at 8 billion, equivalent to 3.5 months of import cover. Now, let's compare this to what they even left. We are talking about now. What they left was 6.2 billion in terms of their reserves. Now let's even move on. The growth rates in 2024 we had 4.8 in the first quarter, 7% in the second, 7.2, and in the third reflect an average 6.3. This is significantly higher than. No, let me land. This is even higher. The growth rate, respectfully, the current growth is even higher than what we inherited.
No, but do you have any?
Hold on.
Was there any debt restructuring in 2016?
Was there any COVID in 2016?
But there was
there any COVID in 2016?
There was a reduction of what?
Was there any COVID in 2016? Was there any COVID in 2016? Was there any Russia-Ukraine war? Let me learn. You have the opportunity to speak.
I won't have.
No, you have the opportunity to speak.
No.
I am saying that Mr. Mahama himself has admitted on 2 international platforms the devastating impact of the COVID and Russia-Ukraine on the whole world's economy.
He didn't say it was the sole reason why the economy went junk to the point that now we don't have to do a restructure.
But you see, when you are restructuring a debt, of course, certainly when your economy is in shock and the economy, the turnover or the outlook doesn't look good, and you bring in institutions like IMF, and IMF say that, well...
It's not every instance that IMF makes you a restructure. We've been to the IMF in recent times. So
no, but it comes with conditionalities. It depends on the arrangement that the government has.
It depends on how poor how well the economy is doing.
But there was a point in time, as part of our IMF program, where we froze employment. At that time, nobody saw that the economy was poor. Is that the case?
All right.
At a point in time, as part of the IMF conditionalities, graduate unemployment or employment in general was frozen. Compare it to a situation where maybe your external debtor said, I'm going to give you that fiscal space to be able to pay. But you may also have to do a local commitment by also restructuring the local debt. So it depends on yes, I agree with you. It depends on your conditionalities. It depends on the exigencies of the moment. It depends on the variables before the table. I agree with you. But you see, you cannot overlook the impact of the COVID-19. That's what I'm saying, that if you look at it from the global perspective, look at the impact on even that, the global shock on even incumbent governments. The fact that even about 70% of all incumbent governments are so. Of course, you asked a question about Ghanaians losing food. If you want to have a very, an approach which is not a lazy one in analyzing the elections, one can clearly see that it is not Ghanaians going to vote for the NDC, but has more to do with an apathy recorded. Well, clearly. You had in 2020
because you have been given a second chance. You will not have the opportunity.
Professor Lord Mensah, so going forward, what does it mean? What really is the future like interim? The first quarter of next year, and then also, let's say, the first half of next year. What does it look like? Because here is the finance minister on one hand saying this, but the numbers also just speak differently. And so, per your analysis, what do we need to do? We need to cut costs, make sure the fees are reduced, etc. in terms of the welfare policies. What do we need to do? And then what really does it look like?
Okay, so we're looking at 2 things here. The economy is going through difficulty, and if you want to see the summary of the difficulty that we are going through, look at the interest rate structures. I mean, if you look at the interest rate structures, the long-term interest rates are lower than the short-term. Look at that is the treasury bills that we're seeing now. Treasury bill market has been witnessing higher interest rate, which tells you that government available funds are on short-term. So what I'm expecting going forward, I've been told the finance minister will read a budget for the first quarter of next year. I think next week or something. I don't know, whether end of this week. Now, what I'm expecting is that, I mean, they should realize the situation we find ourselves in and possibly reduced, the budget deficit further, at least in the first quarter, rather than coming to call out economic numbers that will call for unnecessary expenditure lines that at the end of the day can derail, some of the gains that we've made, over the past, month as a result of being under the IMF program. You see, we went into this election under an IMF program, which at the end of the day, the IMF, guidelines and, the rules were serving as a guide. So more or less tamed, the expenditure lines that we're supposed to make into the year. So going forward, I'm expecting that, we will stick to the IMF program, at least the first quarter of the year, before a new administration comes in, in between. So I think, we are still under an IMF program, and the budget is always dictated by, the program, and we have to stick to it.
All right. Just 2 minutes on this.
Please, Roland, you see.
What's the outlook like for the transition team, the president-elect's team?
It is clear that the president-elect is ready to deliver Ghana to ensure that there's prosperity, there's economic stability. But you see, the point is that your government...
You are coming to government.
Hold on. Please. Your government has taken people's money from their pockets. For the first time in history, 70-year-old, 80-year-old, 60-year-old men and women, old men and women, have paraded themselves in front of finance ministry demanding their monies. You have taken their money. Monies you are supposed to pay, you are not paying, and you are sitting on TV clapping. Please. You are not
when you were talking, they didn't. So
you are happy that under your government you have taken people's money to domestic detention program. You are sitting on TV talking.
That what happened?
Please. Oh,
no, they were picking
today.
Is that what happened?
From where?
They are supposed to pay interest. They are not paying. You are saying that they are not taking people's money. Today, our international reserves is 3.1. It means that if there is shock in Ghana, we can only sustain for 3 months. Meanwhile, and the NDC was 5 months. Please. So how can you sit on TV and say that your economy you are living is better? You understand the point I'm making? An economy that cannot pay debtors. Oh,
talk. And
you understand the point I'm making?
You have a minute.
So it is clear the economy was shambolic. It is the reason why the people of Ghana have voted them out. And I'm happy that the president-elect has made it clear that a committee will be formed, a potent team will be formed to change the destiny of this country. And you saw that today, a list of 5 potent men have been listed to recover all the monies that have been stolen from this country. You have the likes of lawyer Martin Pebu, Kofi Boache, Daniel Domelevo, coming to take all the monies that these people have stolen through the National Cathedral Project, through PDS. Another very stinking corrupt. Please. Oh, please.
He gave a wrong figure on the international result.
To actually take all the monies that they have stolen. So there is hope for Ghana. I am very hopeful that the president-elect will take steps to make things better.
The $8 billion
just 2 minutes
he's talking about, if the country was servicing its external debt, we wouldn't be able to accumulate that $8 billion. So the point has to be made that we have decided, as a result of reckless management of the economy, not to be paying people that we owe outside the country, for which reason we have been able to save 8 billion, which only covers 3.5 of our import cover. So it doesn't put anybody in a better shape. What we are only saying, I will still insist that this current administration must go back to the GTP, which is the Great Transformation Plan, and implement the 10 strategic anchor industries, which will diversify the base of this economy, so that we will not receive the shocks that we did during COVID. What was COVID? We are talking about the fact that, but for COVID, we will not be where we are. COVID affected Cote d'Ivoire, it affected Rwanda, it affected Burkina, it affected Niger. Their inflation never traveled beyond 7%. Ours went as far as 54%. So what are you talking about? And the Ghanaian verdict was clear enough. Let us stop some of these things and begin to take the people of this country serious, so that they would...
Professor Lord Mensah, just conclude on this for me. I know you have a minute. Just do that.
Yeah, so the savings that we are talking about from the restructuring, they are all expected savings. They're not realized savings. And in Ghana, we cannot boast of, monies that are expected as a result of mismanagement that we've been having over the past years. So we have to differentiate between the two. But what I can say is that we are under the dictate of an IMF program, and we should, stick to it as, expected of us. There's nothing different we're going to do as far as, the budget appropriations and allocations are concerned within the IMF program. Remember, we've promised the IMF that we're going to increase our revenue to GDP from 14% to 18% by the end of the program. And so we should look at all these things and situate it in context.
All right. Thank you very much, people, for passing through the studio as well.